Hey guys, I'm back with another 2 microphone reviews. This company called FIFINE, it looks like FIFINE when you spell it. Their name is FIFINE. They sent me 2 microphones, a dynamic microphone and a condenser microphone. So we're going to go ahead and review them, see what they're about. Okay, now you can see my screen. So I have them pulled up. You can find them on Amazon as well as their own website. So they are listed for $36.99 in both locations. They advertise themselves for podcasting, streaming, voiceover, dubbing, video recording, things like that. And these are both cardioid pattern microphones. So we've spoken about this before, but down here you can see this. This is a cardioid pattern. You have different patterns in your microphones depending on what uses you have for them. So if you're going to play music, if you need to take in sound from multiple areas, things like that. So this is the pattern that you want for voice work. So podcasting, streaming, exactly what they're advertising this for. That indent, you can visualize it like the impression of your voice pushing into that bubble. That's how you know what directionality the pattern's going to pick up from. All right, so for $36.99, that is a really great deal. And that if this turns out to be a good microphone, that is ideal for you guys to get started with your voiceover work. All right, so let's go through what's in the box. We're going to start with the dynamic microphone. This is what the box looks like. Stably metal design, full and clear voice, cardioid pattern, XLR connection. Very simple. This is what I got, minus my cable right here. I got the microphone and I got this little stand. It feels really nice. The whole thing is metal. It's got a really nice weight to it. And even the stand itself I like. It sits really low, so you're going to have it somewhere where you're going to be speaking to it right through here. So the difference between a condenser microphone and a dynamic microphone is the dynamic microphone acts like a shotgun mic, meaning that you're going to speak directly down the barrel of the microphone. If I speak here, you can hear that difference. But as I speak directly into where I'm going to call it a diaphragm, I think that's what it's called, or I prefer to call it an eardrum. I'm going to speak directly down into that eardrum, that barrel, and that's how you use a dynamic mic. So it's going to pick up my voice as I'm speaking directly down the barrel and potentially what's directly behind me. That's basically how shotgun mics work. The good part about that is if you have some extra sound going on around here, you're less likely to pick that up, and then you'll have less white noise in the background. What else? Dynamic microphones you can typically get louder into. So if I need to yell and scream for a video game, a dynamic mic might be a better choice for me just because of the way that it's made. It can handle much louder sounds. Yeah, I think that's all I want to say about dynamic mics. Let's go ahead into the testing. Okay, so phase 1, we're going to test both of these microphones in an area that's only sort of treated. So I know that you can see these treatment panels behind me. I have some above me and some to my right. I don't have any to my left. And there's some across the room. So it seems pretty treated, but I also have a door that's being installed right here that isn't fully sealed. This is going to be my future studio. So I think this will be comparable to many people's bedrooms or maybe work offices where you have some things that are sound absorbing, but it's not fully treated. So I thought it would be a good idea to record out here in that kind of setting, and then I'll go into my studio where it's fully soundproof and then see how this microphone performs as well. All right, so we are in Adobe Audition, and what we're going to do is read at a regular volume, a whispering volume, and a loud volume. We might mess around with the gain a little bit, and then we'll move on to the next microphone. I currently have this microphone plugged into my Audient ID4 interface, and then it routes itself to the laptop. This is an XLR microphone. This is not a USB microphone. USB microphones mean that the microphone connects directly to the computer via USB. It typically doesn't have any control over the gain that you have on your microphone. The gain is kind of like the volume, like how much sound how many decibels the microphone's going to let in. So I'm not a fan of USB. This is not a USB, this is an XLR. So that means that you use a microphone cable and it goes to an interface, and then that goes to your computer. All right, so we're gonna do a normal speaking test. I'm going to go ahead and hit record. I don't know if I said this already, but I'm going to be using a pre-made preset that Lenny B made me for a different studio setup. It'll be good enough for this. But you do want a different calibrated preset depending on the exact space that you're recording within, or if you do your own mastering, then congratulations. And we'll play some of that back. First, without my preset, Universal Studios announced it would bring Season 4 of Netflix's original series Stranger Things to life through an all-new haunted house at the 2023 edition of Halloween Horror Nights. It sounds pretty clear. I like the clarity that you hear in my voice. It sounds pretty crisp. Something that I'm not, that I would probably want to figure out my way to master around is I want a more full body sound just in general as I'm speaking. This sounds a little bit thin. So let me see what I can do. I don't do my own mastering because I have my presets, but sometimes I need to do a little bit extra depending on what I'm recording. So what I did was I opened up the parametric equalizer, and in the layman's terms that I understand this, you have high frequencies up here, lower frequencies down here. So if I were to bring this up, you would get all of those higher frequencies in my voice, and it would only accentuate what I'm already hearing that I'm trying to navigate away from a little bit. So what I did was I brought up those lower frequencies to give more body to the voice. Let me play that again for you. Universal Studios announced it would bring Season 4 of Netflix's original series Stranger Things to life through an all-new haunted house at the 2023 edition of Halloween Horror Nights. See, it sounds a little bit more round. You have a little bit of those lower frequencies in there. I really like that sound. I would say that it just sounds like an unmastered recording, which it is, which I think is really great. You don't hear a lot of noise around, and that's that there's not a lot of noise to be had right now. Let's go ahead and do some just background noise. That's also really nice. You're not really picking up a lot of background noise. I do want to mention this is plugged into my interface, and typically I have my gain input cranked up about 75% of the way on my interface. This is about 95% of the way up on my interface. So let's go ahead and play around with that and hear how it sounds with playing with the gain, so then you know how much wiggle room you might have. So I would say right about here is my typical recording level. And with my other microphone in my studio, this is 75% of the way. It's sensitive enough in there to pick up everything in my voice, including like T's, S's, D's, to where you're not dropping any sounds or frequencies. But it's also low enough to not pick up any hums or anything of my computer. Whenever you're recording, you really want to be within this range, -9 and -18. So let's see how much I need to turn it up to get into that range. There we go. This is the range that we really want to be in. And this is at like 99% of the way up my gain. So there's not a whole lot of wiggle room in terms of how much I can play with on my gain. I don't know how this is going to be for everyone else. But we'll keep it right here. And we'll move into the next stage, which is see if we can whisper things and how well it picks up much quieter vocals. Debuting on September 1st at Universal Orlando. All right, so let's go ahead and listen to that. Just at a glance, because I was speaking much closer to the mic, I'm about 2 inches away from the mic. Typically, I want to be about 5 to 6 inches away, but because I knew that I don't have much wiggle room in my gain, I went ahead and got closer. There, visitors will encounter the latest supernatural villain, Vecna, who is hell-bent on destroying the barrier between the Upside Down and the real world to reign supreme. I think that sounds really nice. Some of the things in there, obviously, I wouldn't be holding the microphone in my hands. I would likely put it on an arm. I just can't do that with this because the attachment is a little larger, and I don't know where I put my attachment adjuster. That's probably actually on my real microphone. So other than that, I think it sounds really nice. It sounds like you're really up close and intimate to the listener. The only thing that I would have to watch out for are P's and S's. Because I'm so close to the microphone, I wouldn't have the space for a pop filter, but that's just a matter of like slightly moving off center to the microphone and pronouncing a little bit differently in my mouth. So you can already hear this adjustment right here if I'm saying Peter Piper packed a peck of pickled peppers, right? It's partially an adjustment on my end and then just moving slightly off center to the microphone to make that adjustment. Now let's see how we do getting loud. Testing. Halloween Horror Nights. Halloween Horror Nights. All right. From the opening shots of Stranger Things 4. From the opening shots of Stranger Things 4, Episode 1, we knew this was meant to be an experience at Halloween Horror Nights. Universal Hollywood executive producer John Murdy said. You know, I think it's good. I think that I would want a preset specific to that much more projected tone. So I would probably ask my audio engineer to put that together for me. All right, so I think this was a solid A for this microphone. If you're just getting into voiceover work, I would say I think this is a really good microphone, especially if you're in a well-treated area, which is the most important part. Making sure that you have a good studio space. But we'll go ahead and see how this performs in a studio space next. But other than that, for $36.99, that is a really good entry-level deal. And a lot of you guys ask me all the time about microphone equipment that you can afford. This is a great option. And, you know, we'll see how it compares to the condenser. I prefer a condenser mic and how you speak into it, but dynamic mic, this is great. All right, so on to microphone number 2. So this is another XLR microphone, plugs into the interface to the computer. This is a K669C Condenser Microphone. You'll see it. Okay, there you go. So let's go ahead and see what these run for. All right, so here it is. This is the FIFINE XLR microphone. They also advertise this one for podcast, vocal, voiceover work, streaming, singing, cardioid studio, which is that pattern that we spoke about earlier. They don't have a picture on here. So this one is also going for $36.99, which is a great price. Let's go ahead and skip all the nonsense and get right into it. All right. So right off the bat, let's check our gain. So this is a pretty decent level. Once again, we are all the way... No, actually, this is much different. So maybe that is because the dynamic is meant to really get loud into, we had to turn the gain all the way up because it really is designed for maybe more boisterous kind of work. This condenser mic is sitting right where my normal 75% level gain is, and we're right within the range that we want to be in. So that is a great start. I am speaking into it. As you'll notice, I'm speaking into it from the side. That's what makes it condenser mic. That, and I'm sure there are things different with the diaphragm as opposed to the top like you do with a dynamic mic. And this just, it gives you a different type of sound, but this is really where the sound is coming in from. So let's read a little bit about Harry Potter. In a recent interview with Variety... Oh, look at that. That looks like a very different pattern than what we were getting. This is noise right here. Let's listen to it. In a recent interview with Variety, Daniel Radcliffe has expressed his excitement for Max's upcoming Harry Potter TV series, as he believes that this would be a great opportunity to introduce the franchise to a new generation. You know, I typically don't see patterns like this when I have just a little bit of background noise. Usually it's like even less, visually it's less than this. It just looks like a little bit of static. This I would have thought would have been very loud, but it's really just the air around me. The condenser microphones are going to be a little bit more sensitive than the dynamic microphone because, like I said, dynamic, you can get louder into. The condenser, not so much. Let's see if we can get rid of that background noise. So first things first, it's pretty decent. The first thing I want to say is if you're doing this for podcasting, if you're doing this for streaming, if you're doing this for any, any kind of activity or job or anything like that where you're not an actual voice actor and this isn't the service right here, it's related to anything else, this is a perfectly good microphone. It's really good. In terms of whether I would recommend this, obviously my evaluation isn't over yet, and bear in mind that we're not in a completely treated room, but I will say that you do hear a bit of the room around me, which I think is expected because even with my professional microphone, I'm not recording in this room right now because it's not finished. So if you're in a room and your area isn't finished, I think this sounds really good. Let's see if we can play with it just a little bit. I mean, in reality, it took out most of this right here. Is it? But in the vocal recording itself, this microphone is sensitive enough to pick up the reflections. The AC is on. I'm sure there's a little bit of a hum from my laptop, which is just sitting here on the computer desk. And with my other microphone, I would be anticipating and expecting to hear both. So I think that's really solid, especially knowing that in terms of like the gain on my interface, I do have the flexibility to go up and down, just like I do with my, $1,000 condenser mic. All right, let's move on to a whisper. Let's go ahead and whisper into the microphone. I'm going to make this just a little bit more sensitive so I don't have to get so close and do these sounds into it. Radcliffe, who played Harry Potter in the blockbuster film franchise. As you would expect, you can see all of that noise underneath. This has the presets and the equalizer on it. Radcliffe, who played Harry Potter in the blockbuster film franchise for over a decade, is hoping that the series would be more faithful to the books by including key parts of the story that were cut from the movies. Okay, so on that recording, you heard a little bit more of those plosions, the p, b, like those kinds of things, which is very common in voiceover. So, and that's I was pulling back on them quite a bit. So I don't have a pop filter in front of me at the moment, which helps with those things. Also getting a little bit off center. I can get more off center on this microphone than I could with the dynamic because the dynamic is just through here. So whenever you get a little off center, you can, but you can't get too off center. I could feasibly record like this, even directing it more towards me like this, to where if I'm saying P's and B's and all of that, it's not going directly into the diaphragm and creating that that sound. So I think that sounds very good as well in this untreated room. Now let's see if we can get loud, which for a condenser mic, I'm not anticipating too much. I'm excited for it as a viewer. I'll be able to enjoy it with everyone. All right, let's see how that did. I'm excited for it as a viewer. I'll be able to enjoy it with everyone else possible, with a slightly different perspective, Radcliffe said. It's a nice thing that a whole new generation is going to get introduced to the stories in a new way. They'll see it as a TV series. I'm going to say that did pretty well. I'm not in a treated area, so no matter what, as I raise my voice, you're going to hear a lot of reflections off of the untreated wall spaces. and I was holding the mic a little bit further away, and just in the way that I was speaking as if I was further away. But let me listen to it one more time without any presets. I'm excited for it as a viewer. I'll be able to enjoy it with everyone else possible, with a slightly different perspective, Radcliffe said. It's a nice thing that a whole new generation is going to get introduced to the stories in a new way. They'll see it as a TV series, so they'll probably have time to go into all the things. All right, so that was really good. Let's go ahead and get into the studio, which I'm sure the results are going to be even better, but so far, so good. For $36.99, this is awesome.